the scenes that don't really hold up. He just said the problem with Hollow Man is that 20 other people could have directed that movie. When you watch Hollow Man, you don't think this is a Verhoeven film. When you watch Showgirls, you're like, this is Verhoeven. When you watch RoboCop, when you watch Starship Troopers, when you watch Total Recall. But when you watch this, you're just thinking this could have been any director on the planet. And that's why he did not like it. What do you think about that?
I don't know. So before we get into this, like, what makes a Verhoeven film? I think that's the first question.
I mean, if you think about just the interesting choices that he makes. So if you go back to the beginning of his films, Basic Instinct and Total Recall and RoboCop, Starship Troopers, Showgirls. The performances in Showgirls are so incredibly heightened, and that was a choice. In Starship Troopers, the performances are stilted to portray kind of a fascist type vibe. Mm-hmm. In Basic Instinct, you have one of the most, the scene where she's being interrogated. You have just a very sexually charged thriller. RoboCop, the violence is so over the top, and the glee is so over the top in it. Then you have Total Recall, but his movies still have smarts. I think sometimes people miss the point on some of his films, but Total Recall, that's our most popular MFF episode. And I think the reason is it's a cult classic, but it was also a smash hit, and it's also pretty smart and has very good practical effects. But it's he's able to deal with action. He's able to deal with heady themes. He's able to kind of attack an action film from a very unique place. Also, that movie Elle, it's a rape revenge fantasy that was very polarizing, but everyone was like, it's very good. Then he had Black Book, which was also another excellent film. So his movies, they never felt generic. They always felt unique or odd, or they failed nobly. This one feels more like a stock $100 million big budget picture that kind of was only being made around 2000 with Deep Blue Sea and like those big 2000s movies, 1999. And so this one, I don't know, it feels like, all right, so there's a scene in the movie. He becomes invisible and he immediately starts like groping his coworker, right? And then he goes home and there's the infamous scene with Rona Mitra. And that scene just plays so easily. It's so non-Verhoeven because in his movies, a lot of the violence is ugly. Everything was almost too easy in this movie. Like, I think this movie would age better if it was like uglier. Like, so when he goes into Rona Mitra's apartment, maybe he just wants to be a peeping Tom, right? But somehow she senses him, something horribly happens, and something terrible goes on in there. Like, he didn't plan on going in there to do that. Does that make sense? Like, so
we're on a similar thought process. What I'm struggling with this film is that I think it has some interesting points to make, but the execution is not very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of telling.
Yeah, and the idea of like we're going to explore toxic male masculinity through the invisible man structure is interesting to me, and we're going to explore that through sexuality is interesting to me, but it's just not done very well. And I really like the idea of exploring or following this character as he falls down the rabbit hole of power. He becomes intoxicated with his own power. The difficulty of this film, though, is that it happens too fast, and you don't really like the character to begin with. It's like he looks up at the beginning. He has a save the cat moment. He sees the sign. You're like, okay, this guy loves Twinkies. He's working hard. And then he turns around and is immediately peeping Tom. Now, like what you were saying is like, if it's slower, if we don't have the infamous scene, if he starts off by screwing with people, then he peeps on someone, then he gropes someone, like it just moves way too fast.
Yeah. I would have liked, I know this sounds weird, man, but I would have liked more the scene with Rona Mitra is just so clean. And I think that's what makes it so gross nowadays. I wish it would have been not so easy. It just, right? Like, it seems like Verhoeven, right? So Verhoeven knows how to push buttons. He's like a Lars von Trier almost, where you see things that you're just never gonna forget. You just, they're burned in you, but he knows what he's doing and there's an art to it. This one felt more shallow, and so it feels more empty when that happens.
Is it more scary? Is it scarier to be stalked by an invisible man in the daylight or at nighttime? Because one of the things about being invisible is that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I was taking out of that scene is like, it is clean and crisp looking, and that's disturbing to us, but it's more terrifying when you can see everything because you don't know what's happening.
Yeah. And I guess in this scene, I don't know, I guess also the way the whole scene was played out too. Like this, so if this movie's a comment on what happens when you don't have to look in the mirror, and it's a comment on like, you know, just that type of scientist, the very kind of masculine, the toxic masculinity of it all. But then you kind of had their cake and ate it too, when she's brushing her hair in front of the mirror. So any art in that scene is gone. Like, so it's not as powerful as, say, like Irreversible, which is a gnarly movie by Gaspar Noé. And it's just more of appease the audience, right? It's kind of what Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard were making fun of in Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, I understand that take on it. And when I was doing my research, I believe he said he took this job because he needed the money. He was like, my production studio was going to go out of business, so I'll do this job.
Yeah, and because he was in director's jail from Showgirls and Starship Troopers, sort of missed with audiences. So, you know, he needed the money. And I mean, they gave him $100 million picture, which is very interesting. And I don't know, I guess it's just weird. I don't know. This movie just...
There are parts of this film that are interesting. There are parts of this film that are icky. I think we just have to take it all together.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, I think the visual effects are outstanding. Everything seems too fast, man. It's just too... I don't know. Now that I'm more Verhoeven into his kind of films, when I watch it, I just feel like it's a big missed opportunity for him. If that makes sense. So when I watch it, I'm kind of bummed by it. Yeah,
I am too. It's not only a missed opportunity for him. I felt like it's a missed opportunity for the character Invisible Man and the idea of the universal monster, which I'm very attached to, and I have been since a very young age. So whenever I see like Dracula, Invisible Man, Werewolf, anytime these show up and they don't do well, I get sad inside because I want a really good Universal Monsters universe.
Oh, man. So I'm one of the few people who really enjoy the Wolfman remake by Joe Johnston. I mean, look at the cast: Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, Anthony Hopkins. I guess I love it more because it just looks so sumptuous. It just looks so beautiful. And I like the linear storytelling of it. So, but you're right. I really want these movies to work. But I think Lee Wannell's picture is going to do pretty well. I mean, he's a smart guy.
And which picture is that?
The Invisible Man.
Okay.
That's coming out. So I'm releasing this like the day of it comes out. So
yeah, I thought that's with Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's why I wanted to do this. I actually thought she was directing. I don't know why I thought that.
Yeah, he did Upgrade. Lee Wannell. That dude's awesome.
Oh, and everyone should just go watch Upgrade right now.
Oh, it's so good. You know, he also wrote Saw. Good. He also wrote. I don't know if you can find this. I don't know if they show if you can find the back catalog. But Lee Wannell did an interview with Empire, the Empire podcast, and he talks about the making of Upgrade, and it's hilarious. It's about an hour long. And so if you can find it, listen to it after, you know, this podcast, of course. But yeah, find that episode because he talks about low budget filmmaking, and I share his anecdotes to all my students when we talk about low budget film. It's pretty great.
So we've talked a little bit about like things that we find troubling, but what are things that you really like about this film?
Well, Elisabeth Shue, superhero.
Yeah, that's true.
And I like how easily she kind of stepped into that role. This movie wasn't made to be... I think that's... What I like about her character is that she does have... I kind of like the way she plays a relationship with Kevin Bacon, too. It's very flirty. You can tell she still likes the guy. She's just tired of his crap, I would say. And she's just kind of down for science. She wants to change the world, I guess. So I kind of like that aspect. But I like at the end how there's no big speeches or anything. She just takes the forefront. So she's the one that saves Brolin. I like when she makes a magnet and pulls the door open, and then she is on the elevator shaft with Bacon and kills him. It's just a neat, like she becomes, and then she does the super slide into the elevator and blasts him with a flamethrower.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
And she tore her Achilles, and they had to shut down production for 7 weeks on this film. Did you know that?
Yeah. I knew that, and they thought about replacing her, but ultimately decided not to, which is, I think, is a good thing.
And there's a scene where after they're leaving, after the general says he wants a turkey sandwich and they're going to shut him down, when they're walking to the car, you can see her limping.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So if you watch it again, you'll see her limp. Like it's not very, she's doing the best she can, but you're like, man, that must hurt.
Yeah. So some of the things I like about this film, I do like that it villainizes toxic masculinity. And it's like, that's something that feels very relevant today, and it's probably can continue to be relevant. You can quibble about how well it did that, but I like that it was trying at least to take it on. Something we haven't talked about is just Kevin Bacon is so good in charming / creepy roles.
Yeah, and
that's his sweet spot.
He's a star in a $100 million movie, and it bums me out that this movie wasn't better because I love Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, exactly. I love the entire third act. I know that it falls into slasher tropes, but that's my favorite genre of horror film, so I feel really comfortable watching it. And I thought there were some really interesting effects within the third act, and including the veterinarian spraying Kevin Bacon's character with a bunch of blood. That is a scene that I am not going to forget. It's so unique.
Yeah, and I love that. I love when he kills Dr. Kramer, the smoke blows into his face, and how he falls in the water. You can see him. I like how they shoot him with fire extinguishers. They shoot him with fire. They throw blood on him. They put water on him. I kind of dug how they had to figure out each way to showcase the special effects. And they've actually discovered something new where when he was in a pool, he had to wear all black because when he wore green, it reflected too much. So you can see how pissed off he'd be. He gets all green and he goes into a swimming pool and they're like, oh, yeah, this doesn't work. And then he had to get all that off and they had to repaint him black because it did too much. They couldn't get the footage of it. So they would shoot the plate without him, the scene without him. And then they would shoot the scene with him to get the special effects. It's really, and also Verhoeven and Anderson, they both worked on Starship Troopers. And Anderson said that Starship Troopers was a massive visual feast, right? Visual effects everywhere. But they had the same amount of visual shots in a much more condensed space in Hollow Man. So the two movies had the same amount of VFX shots.
I find that surprising, but now that I'm thinking about it, it probably makes sense because Kevin Bacon's in almost every scene.
I mean, you have the composited layers, you have the different, the structure, then you have the gorilla scene, you have him. I mean, this is a really in depth. This almost like killed everyone working on it. This was a tough movie to work, but I'm telling you, it still looks good today. Would you agree?
I do. I mean, it does look a little bit dated because it's from 2000 or 99. But it still, I think, looks pretty good. You know, if it came out now and I knew it was like sort of a low budget, I wouldn't think twice about it.
I mean, in 2000, it was kind of so you saw it in a drive-in. Were you really impressed in 2000? Because that's what everybody was talking about when it came out.
I was, absolutely. I was really impressed in 2000 this came out because you'd never seen anything like it before.
Yeah. I mean, I just, all right. So, hey, I want to do something really quick before we talk about this movie more. I'm gonna wreck the momentum, but I just want to do this. I want to do an Elisabeth Shue draft real quick that we'll put on Movies, Films, and Flicks Facebook.
Okay.
All right. How's that sound?
Yeah, I gotta look her up, but I started this already. I thought you might ask this question.
I was thinking about doing a Joey Slotnick. Also, I was very happy that Joey Slotnick and Greg Grunberg are in this movie because, I mean, when have you ever seen Greg bend this skeevy? He's normally a nice guy. There's a line in this movie, right? I'm gonna say it too. There's a line where he goes, I would suck the tits off her.
It's something like that. Yeah.
I'm like, what? Yeah, but have you ever seen Grunberg like this before?
No, never.
I think it's pretty.
So weird.
Yeah, I kind of like it though. I like seeing squirrely Greg. All right, who would be your first? Well, I'll give you first pick.
Okay. Well, I am going to take Karate Kid. I knew you had it, so I'm taking it.
Oh man, that's tough. I don't think I can catch up. Let's see. All right, so
you can. You definitely can.
I just think we got to give her some respect here because I think she's great. Let's see. You know what? Let's do Leaving Las Vegas. She's awesome in that movie.
She is. So I'm gonna pick one. I'm gonna pick Back to the Future 3.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, and I know that's generally considered not the best one. But I have really fond memories of seeing it in the theater, so I'm going to pick it.
All right, I'm doing Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh, that's a really good one. Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen this movie in a very long time, but Cocktail.
Ooh. All right. I'll do The Saint, because that was another massive film that she was in that was huge.
That was with Val Kilmer?
Yeah. Remember how much they pushed that, though? That was a big popular picture.
I do.
Oh.
That was